Welcome to Curious Nightmares, the channel where your darkest fears and deepest curiosities collide. Prepare for spine-tingling tales and eerie explorations into the supernatural. Subscribe and stay tuned for hair-raising stories. This is my story. I'm a junior in high school and my name is Eve. My dad lives in Tampa, Florida, which is where my mom used to live too, and we were once a family. But my parents had problems, and they ended up getting a divorce. My mom, Janice, got a promotion in Ovid, New York. She works at the post office. Initially, my mom was looking for a two-bedroom apartment in Ovid so that I could have my own room. I wanted to finish high school back in Tampa with my friends, especially since it was 2019. But I promised my mom that I'd visit her whenever I could, and I meant that. One day, my mom, Janice, came across a listing for a house that seemed incredible. It had new appliances and new hardwood floors. There was just one downside. It was right next to an old closed-down insane asylum that had been shut since 1995. Strangely, that didn't bother my mom at all. She thought the building looked cool and didn't believe in ghosts or the supernatural, so she applied for the house and got it. I was planning to help her move when summer break started. My mom didn't tell me about the house. She wanted to surprise me. When school ended, my mom and I headed to Ovid, New York. The movers were bringing my mom's belongings and some of mine. It was a long journey, about 22 hours, so we decided to drive for about 9 hours, find a hotel, and spend the night. We had a blast on our road trip to Ovid. We played our favorite songs on blast, admired the scenery, and had deep conversations. Once we arrived in Ovid, I was thrilled to see our new apartment. My mom had been talking about getting an apartment, so when she pulled up in front of this massive house, I thought she was making a pit stop. But she turned off the car, looked at me, and said, "Home sweet home." I couldn't contain my excitement as I got out of the car and rushed inside to explore. We ran around the house, exploring every corner. I found my room on the second floor to the left of the house. I was so excited that I barely noticed the old, run-down building that was now my view from my windows. It felt oddly familiar, but I couldn't figure out how. As I was lost in thought, my mom called to let me know that the movers had arrived. I snapped out of my daze and rushed downstairs to help out. We decided to order some food, played music, and unpacked and organized our things. The movers were a great help, and we were extremely grateful for their assistance. After many hours of unpacking and organizing, all that was left was getting rid of the empty boxes near the front door. We went to bed that night exhausted but happy that the hard work was done. As I lay in bed, I felt an eerie feeling, but I was too tired to dwell on it and soon drifted to sleep. When I woke up the next day, something was off. The atmosphere felt heavier and darker. I went about my morning routine, brushing my teeth and washing my face. But as I descended the stairs, I couldn't shake a bizarre feeling. It felt familiar, but I couldn't quite place it. As I took the last step, something strange happened. I woke up again in my bed, confused and disoriented. What the hell was that? A dream? I whispered to myself. It had felt so real. Shaken and baffled, I decided to push it from my mind and focus on the day ahead. Downstairs, my mom was making breakfast. I greeted her with a smile and a cheerful, "Good morning, Mom. Did you sleep well?" We sat down to have breakfast and made plans to explore the new city. After a long day of shopping and exploring, we returned home around 9 p.m. We took our shopping bags to our rooms, and once that was done, I decided to take a shower. I suggested to my mom that we watch a movie together, and she agreed. Late into the evening, we both fell asleep in the living room while watching TV. On Sunday morning, I woke up thinking to myself, something was different, and I couldn't quite place it. I realized I was in my room, but it didn't make sense. When did I come up to my room? I pondered, thoroughly confused. Suddenly, a scream echoed through the air, sending chills down my spine. I turned to the source of the sound, which was the old and run-down building. It didn't make sense. Had they remodeled the entire building in a day? I couldn't have missed the construction workers because it would take longer to rebuild than just a day. The eerie feeling intensified. As I headed towards the bathroom, I heard another scream. I turned to look out of my window, which had a view of the old building. the world darkened and pain shot through me. "Honey, wake up!" My mom's voice snapped me back to reality. She was looking at me with concern. I tried to push aside the eerie feeling I'd had when I heard the screams. "Were you having a nightmare, dear?" "You were screaming in your sleep," she said. "Screaming?" I replied. "No, it wasn't a nightmare," I assured her. She gave me a hug, smiled, and headed towards the bathroom. That's when I realized I was in the living room. "What the hell is going on here?" I whispered to myself. I spent the day investigating the old building online and discovered that it was the Willard Asylum for the chronic insane. As the days went by, my dreams became more and more bizarre. I kept it all to myself, not wanting to worry my mom. Then, one day, I decided to explore the insane asylum. It felt eerily familiar, like I'd been there before. And that's when everything took a strange turn. I woke up in an insane asylum, not in the present day, but in 1869. I was in a cell and the staff called me Mary. I tried to explain that I didn't belong there, but no one listened to me. When I would go to sleep in that place, I would dream of a world in the distant future, a world where I had a loving mom and life was full of love and laughter. But when I woke up in the insane asylum, I was surrounded by patients screaming. I tried to tell staff them I wasn't Mary, I was Eve. My distress escalated, and the staff strapped me down to a bed and started electrotherapy. I screamed in pain and terror. "Again," a man's voice said, and they shocked me once more. My screams grew louder. Then I heard a familiar voice. "Eve, honey, wake up." It was my mom. I opened my eyes and hugged her tightly, tears streaming down my cheeks. I told her about the nightmares and the strange experiences, and she listened with concern and understanding. Mom noticed something was off as she mentioned the times when I would seemingly black out and stare into nothing for several minutes, sometimes even longer, or how I would stand at the window in my room just gazing at the old asylum. I was terrified that one day I wouldn't be able to return to this time with my mom, and I desperately wanted to get out of that house. We decided to pack up our necessities and find a hotel to stay in, while Mom made arrangements for the movers to come back for our belongings. As I stood in my room, looking around to figure out what I needed, I heard a voice coming from the doorway. "Mary, we told you to behave yourself or you're going in for another treatment." I turned to face the voice, my eyes filled with tears, trembling uncontrollably until I dropped to the floor. I found myself back in the cell of the Willard Asylum for the chronic insane, still sobbing and begging for mercy. A man in a white coat asked me, "What is your name?" Through my tears and sobs, I pleaded, "Please don't hurt me." Again he asked, "What is your name?" This time I replied, "Mary, my name is Mary." The doctor looked at me and said, "You're making progress." He walked away, leaving me in the cold, harsh cell in nothing but a hospital gown. I looked around and noticed something odd on the wall, a picture of my mom, carved there as if to offer me some comfort. I was trapped in this eerie, unsettling cycle. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know if I belonged in the past or the present. I yearned to return to my life, but I couldn't escape the haunting memories of the asylum. It felt like I was caught between two worlds, unable to find my way back home.